intro, but it was just starting to get good.
And then suddenly it stopped. Yes. Well, that was nice. Thank you for that. It's a bit more, a bit more Yiddish. It's sort of a more appropriate for the show. Did we also change the subtitle of this show? We were going to change the subtitle.
I did not.
Yes, we've got to change that.
About it.
Let's do that as well for next time. So it's current Petach Chamor. So welcome everybody to the Petach Chamor podcast for the Lamb Network.tv. And subtitle is Redemption of the Firstborn, because that's literally what Petach Chamor means. But it really doesn't carry what the cultural context is of the Petach Chamor inside of the Ashkenazi tradition, which comes from Rashi and the Tosafists and the Hasdi Ashkenaz. And the name is coming from Siman number 191 in the Sefer Hasidim by Yehuda HaHasid, who refers to sort of like the leader of the Christians by the term Petach Chamor, and it means the firstborn. Yeah, it means the firstborn donkey, but it also is a sort of a title for this leader, who is referred to in Siman number 191 as a tzaddik, a great saint in Judaism, not in Christianity, in Judaism, because the Ashkenazi tradition, which we promote on this show, almost exterminated by the Nazis, but still, hanging on by a thread, is that Christians and Christianity were supposed to begin as, and they began as, and were supposed to continue on as Messianic Noahides and Messianic Noahism or Noahide Judaism. So that wasn't supposed to be a new religion really called Christianity, but was supposed to be Messianic Noahide Judaism. As Noahide, as we looked at the last show with the passage from the book of Acts, chapter 15, and we explained that what they're doing there is instituting the laws of Noah for the nations. And what there was a question of whether the followers of Jesus have to get circumcised and keep all of the law. And the answer is no, they don't have to get circumcised and keep the law. We don't even do that. So let's let them just do what we do, essentially, which is keeping the 7 laws of Noah. So this is because when you have been impoverished, remember that the family or the church were called the poor in Jerusalem. They're referred to as the poor, many times throughout the New Testament, which made some people believe that the Ebionites were the original church, because Ebioni means the poor. But the problem is that there's many kinds of Ebionite. There are too many different types of Ebionite. In a sense, there is one group of Ebionites who we can call the Gnostic Ebionites, which is not a very great term, because when we use the word Gnostic, we're really talking about Luciferians. But what it means in this context is people who used to be Luciferians, used to be Gnostics, but have become Ebionites. And that means they've become followers of Jesus of Nazareth, and they've accepted the poor lifestyle. And that is the closest group, which I would say would fit the bill of the Messianic Noahides, the people who from amongst the nations who were previously pagan, and in that sense, devil worshippers, if you like, but who have come out of paganism and have come to embrace the message of Noahide Judaism, which Jesus of Nazareth and his disciples were promoting, and they are the new poor. So the poor could be a reference to the early church in Jerusalem, the Jerusalem church. And in Judaism, when a Jew is impoverished, and it says this in the Torah, this is a rule from the Torah, that you shall uphold him as you uphold the Noahide, the Ger and the Toshav. That's what actually the phrase it's used. You shall uphold him as and I think the translation says, as a stranger and a resident among you. But actually the Hebrew used is Ger Toshav, which means a Noahide. So an impoverished Jew only needs to observe the same laws as a Noahide. That's basically what that means. And that's why Jesus says, if you would be perfect, then sell everything you have and follow me. My yoke is an easy yoke. Because he's saying that the law for a poor Jew, he says somebody else wants to follow him, and he says, rabbits have holes and foxes have dens, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. I'm homeless. Follow me if you're ready to be homeless. Okay, so Jesus is talking in that sort of level. And that's basically talking at the Jews who are the impoverished Jews. He hasn't come for the rich, healthy, successful Kehillah Jew. He's come for the marginalized Edah. And this is really important to distinguish between the Kehel and the Edah, but it's just not done in among Christians. But there's a clear distinction. He's not come for the Kehel, he's come for the Edah. And he says in the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, in the Pshita, which is the Aramaic version of the Gospel, on your Peter, and upon this rock I will build my Edah. And he uses this word clearly in the Hebrew and in the Aramaic. It's Edah. He did not come to do anything at all whatsoever with the Kehel, the Kehillah. God has settled everything with the Kehillah. Their religion is complete. Jacob I have loved. It's Edom that I have ignored. It's Edom that I have neglected. And that's often translated as hated or despised. It means treated cruelly, treated meanly. I haven't dealt with Edom properly. I haven't dealt well with Edom. And he's not saying this because I'm an evil God and I hate Edom. And that's the kind of guy I am. I have favorites and I have those people I hate as well because, my creations are toys for me to play with. Like I want to destroy one, I just smash it. That kind of God is Allah of Islam. That is not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No, Allah of Islam is the one who has slaves and toys which he plays with and smashes around, okay? And in that case, if you think like an Islamist, then sure, yes, God says, Jacob I have loved. I love you, Jacob. You're so special. Edom, get out of here. I hate you. That's Allah. You're not worshipping God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob if you worship that. What you're worshipping is the Islamists' Allah. I'm not saying that Muslims have a different God from us. I'm saying that the way that Islam creates God in their own image have blasphemed God and made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I'm using this Judeo-Arabic phrase to show that I praise God in Arabic, and I have nothing wrong with saying that in Arabic. The word Allah does not offend me. But what they have done is they've turned Allah into their own image. And they've made, so that's a blasphemy. So they've blasphemed Allah and they've made Allah into a God who has favorites and toys and he smashes them around and does what he wants with his slaves. He doesn't have children who he loves. But our position is not like that. We believe something differently. So we have to interpret this sort of verse, Jacob I have loved, Edom I have hated. We have to interpret it in a very different way. What does it mean if a parent says to their children, oh, well, I've loved you, but I've hated them? What does this mean? Well, the translation doesn't work very well. It means I've neglected them, I haven't done well by them, I haven't done my duty to them, and it's time for things to change. And that's why in the book of Acts, chapter 15, they quote Amos, where Amos is saying it's time to bring in the remnant of man. But the word used for man translated in the book of Acts in Amos says Edom. It's time to deal with Edom. That's what God is saying. I've neglected Edom. I have not treated him right. I've done badly by Edom. It's time for me to bring Edom in. It's time for me to deal with the remnant of Edom. I have punished Edom. I have whipped them. I have smashed them. And now it's time for me to deal with the remnant of Edom and say, come on in. You too are my child. And so that's what that's about. Okay, so the 7 laws of Noah apply both to the impoverished Jew who is treated as a ger toshav, as a Noahide, and obviously to all of mankind. And Edom, the word Edom, the same spelling, Edom, is Adam, which again is a symbol for all of mankind. So, so all of mankind are brought in by these 7 laws of Noah. And this way is the way we understand that the earliest followers of Jesus of Nazareth were impoverished Jews and Noahides from amongst the nations. And that for both the impoverished Jew and the Noahide from amongst the nation, or the marginalized Jew and the Noahide from amongst the nation, is the same law, the law of the ger and the toshav, or in modern Judaic speak, the law of the Noahide. That's what we're talking about. When we say Noahide, we should probably always say Noahide Ger or Ger Noahide to make sure that everybody understands that this is the link we're making. Ger is the biblical word. Noahide is the correct modern Judaic translation of that word Ger, or Ger Toshav Noahide, Ger Noahide, Gerim Noahides. We should always do that so that people don't think that we've just invented something new out of the blue and this has all come up. We also have to continue make reference to the book of Acts, chapter 15, and make a reference again and again to Amos and to Edom and the mankind, and make sure that people understand the plan as the Jews have seen it. So in this Ashkenazi tradition, which I promote, which was previously also the Romaniot tradition as well, before it became Ashkenazi. For the past 1,000 years, it was Ashkenazi. Before that, for the 1,000 years before that, it was what we call the Romaniot tradition. And unfortunately, the Romaniot Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews are the ones who suffered mostly during the Holocaust, and we mostly don't exist anymore. In fact, the Romaniot Jews, there's less than 2,000 Romaniot Jews left in the whole world. And the Ashkenazi tradition was damaged so badly, we really only had I have to say, we are the dregs at the bottom of the barrel, the scraps which survived after the barrel was emptied. We are the drops of wine which stuck to the wall and are not really suitable for drinking. Lick it and you maybe get a taste of the wine, but the wine has primarily gone. And we are the dregs which are left. I have to say, that's the truth. Most of us come from a secular background, or our grandparents who were secular survivors, and we've become more religious as time has gone by. My grandfather was a survivor. And if you are one of the elderly Jews who are still, were alive during the Holocaust, you yourselves are the survivors, and you had no time for Jewish education while you were in the closet, in the death camp, or wherever else it was that you were hiding throughout most of the war when the Nazis controlled almost all of Central Europe. They controlled all of Europe, except mainland Europe was under the control of the Nazis, unless it was under the control of the communists or the British. Everybody else was under the control of the Nazis. And so allegedly independent countries, or what do you call them? Neutral countries were guilty by complicit. They were complicit in what the Nazis did as well, because you can't be neutral when you see people being massacred and you not step up and do something. You're not neutral. You're actually participating in that. So we suffered badly, but we try to keep this tradition alive. And that tradition is the Chamor tradition, where it doesn't mean redemption of the firstborn. It means the Jews who try to lead the Noahides, specifically the Messianic Noahides, the followers of Jesus of Nazareth, to be good Noahides. That's what the Chamor tradition is. So we were thinking of changing the title of this from Redemption of the Firstborn to actually Jesus the Pharisee, which is the name of a book by Harvey Falk, which we offer to send out to you if you're interested to know more about this tradition. Just send an email to us and we'll get a copy sent out to you, so you can catch up with what we talk about on this channel most of the time, which is a very ancient Pharisaical, scribal Pharisaical tradition, the Chamor tradition, which preserves the concept of believers in Jesus of Nazareth as being part of Judaism in its broadest universal sense, where the followers of Jesus of Nazareth were we can say they're the oldest continual Noahide movement in the world. Even though the majority of them have gone astray into one church or another, there have always been true, good Christian folk throughout the ages. Maybe they were not associated with any particular church, or they were just treated as peasants by a particular church. But there have always been good Christian folk who just want to be followers of Jesus and do what Jesus said, and they're not really interested in the doctrines of the church. There've always been those people. And when those people have read or come across or finally been explained to them chapter 23 of the Gospel of Matthew, where it says, Jesus says to his disciples, he says to the Christians, to his followers, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses. So do and observe everything they tell you to do, not anybody else, but don't convert to become like them. What he's saying here is, I want you to be Noahides, the way the scribal Pharisees tell you to be Noahides. I don't want you to be converted to Orthodox Judaism, to get circumcised, to keep all the law, to have the tzitzit, to have the peyot. I don't want you to have the phylacteries, tefillin. I don't want you to do all that. That's for them. I don't want you to have the prominent places in the synagogues. I don't want you to have the prominent places at the banquets. I don't want you to do your prayers, your long prayers in the corners of the streets. I don't want you to do any of that. That's for the scribal Pharisees to do. They are your priests. They are your priesthood. They are your pastors. They are the clergy. And they have a different level of responsibility and a different kind of law that they must observe to show that they are above and beyond. In the same way you wouldn't expect, you might tolerate people in your, I'm talking to the Christians, you might tolerate people in your churches who get divorced, but you're not going to tolerate your pastor getting divorced. And there's going to be gossip, and Pastor so-and-so and his wife, they got divorced. You're not going to tolerate that. You're going to tolerate somebody in your churches getting divorced and getting married again. But if you see your pastor getting divorced and getting married again, you're going to say no. And why? Because there's a different rule for the laity and there's a different rule for the clergy. Even if you think that you come from a church which has abolished clergy, you instinctively know inside of yourselves, you know what is the rule for the leader of the community and the one who directs and gives moral guidance and support to the community versus the followers in the community. You know the difference. It is inherent. You cannot pretend, we all are under the same ministry. You know, my ministry is this and his ministry is that. And you can't pretend that. You're not all ministers, but you are all called to be God's people. And that should be enough for you. You're not all called to be religious leaders, but you are all called to be God's people. The priesthood of Melchizedek is not the same kind of priesthood that the Jews were. Jesus did not come along to abolish the Jews and Judaism. And there we've got a quotation, which Mark's brought up. He says, James 3:1 states, "Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly." And that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. They will be judged according to, and the scribes and the Pharisees are the teachers, we will be judged according to the strictest level of the law of observing the 613 mitzvot and all the other moral laws which go upon that. We will be judged upon our tefillin, our tzitzit, our peyot, our beards. We'll be judged upon all that. You won't be judged on any of that. You'll be judged only on the 7 laws of Noah, which is what the Acts of the Apostles talk about when they say, well, what should we tell them to do? Keep the laws of Noah, and, that's it. Basically, keep just a few of the laws of Noah, go to the synagogue, learn the law, that's another law of Noah, because you've been called by God's name, that's another law of Noah. And the only thing they don't mention is theft, which is taken for granted. Everybody in the Roman Empire knew that thieves were crucified. So no need to, flog a dead horse. There's no need to go over on that point again. That was contextually understood. But basically what they say in Acts 15 is keep the laws of Noah, and that's it. That's what has translated into this concept of the moral law versus the ceremonial law. Right. The ceremonial law has not been abolished. The ceremonial law still applies to Orthodox Jews. We must keep the ceremonial law. We do all the ceremonial things. But you must keep the moral law, which is the 7 laws of Noah.
Right.
And the way that it's... Yes, go on.
No, go ahead, finish. I'll add a little something.
Okay. And the way that it's described in the book of Acts, chapter 15, includes the Sabbath, because they say the deen, that's the 7th law, the law is taught in the synagogues every Sabbath. So there's your Sabbath ceremonial law. If you're looking for ceremonial law, you do have just one element of ceremonial law which you must observe, and that is to keep holy the Sabbath day. As a Noahide, not as a Jew. You don't do it as the scribal Pharisees do it. We light candles at the beginning of the Sabbath. But Jesus and his disciples, They lit the candles. They didn't describe lighting the candles, but we know from the context. They did the blessing over the wine at the end of the Sabbath. That's the Havdalah. We do the blessing of the wine at the beginning of the Sabbath. The Noahide has to do the blessing of the wine at the end of the Sabbath. And they have the shirayim, the leftovers as well. So there's your ceremony. Jesus did it. He said, do this in memory of me. That's your ceremony. That's Havdalah. And apart from Havdalah, you don't have to worry about any of the other ceremonial laws. The only thing you have to worry about is the moral law, which we call the 7 laws of Noah.
Right.
Now, Mark, what did you want to add?
Well, as a Noahide, as a person that lives the Messianic lifestyle and has for 20 some years now, it's not that we worry about it or are even concerned about it. The thing is that most of us, the majority of us, have lived a Christian lifestyle and realize that that was not fulfilling. And so most of us would say, we know we don't have to do it. We want to do it.
Right.
And another thing is we get to do it. For instance, like Friday nights, having a little service and lighting candles and saying the blessing and all those kind of things. Man, we just, as a matter of fact, doing that has brought so many people to the Lord. We used to be a part of a major, huge Messianic ministry, and we broadcast our services every Friday night when we did our services. And my family, me and my wife, my daughter, and once she got married and with her kids and everything, we did on the broadcast. The broadcast started with us up on the stage doing Kiddush. And I mean, it was huge because so many people love those blessings and doing that. And it has literally brought people to the Lord because of seeing those things and all the other things that we do, we get to do, we want to do, like the Moedim and, going out on Sukkot and camping. I think I've mentioned before, our family has usually camped with over 1,200 people every Sukkot for 8 days. I mean, we do this because we want to, not because we have to. And we don't look at it as this will help us, live with God for eternity or the world to come. We don't do it because of that. We do it because we find that the Torah lifestyle is so much more to us than living the Christian lifestyle. And we want this. And that's why my family does it. That's why the majority of all the people that I know do live the lifestyle that we do.
Okay, I'm gonna push back.
Sure,
So brace for impact.
Sure,
but I'm
it's
going
okay.
To do it, I'm going to do it gently. The first step, though, is this. It's completely understandable that you notice that there is a disconnect between the Christian lifestyle and the Bible and the biblical story. That's completely understandable. First of all, we agree on this. And so you want to seek something more genuine, more connected and more sincere and more truthful and faithful to Scripture. Fair enough. That's absolutely acceptable. The problem is, and there's nothing wrong with what you've done, what any of the Messianic Jews have done. I though have to remain faithful to Orthodox Judaism and the Orthodox Jewish message towards the non-Jews, and that means towards the people who don't have a certificate stating their Jewishness from an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. That's what it means, a non-Jew. Okay, regardless of whether you think that I satisfy the halakha. Frankly speaking, if you don't have that certification, you don't satisfy halakha. That's really the end of the story. So the message from the Orthodox Jews to the non-Jews, those people who don't have that Orthodox Judaic certification, the message that we have is be Noahides. And I was permitted to come onto this show by Rabbi Yeshayahu Hollander, who wanted me to come on and reach out and establish positive ground, common ground, but not seed ground, not seed ground to a messianic lifestyle or movement, which we as the Orthodox believe does not belong to you. Okay, so now that's where the pushback is starting to come here. The intention was entirely pure. The objective was absolutely correct. And what other way were you going to try to connect other than to do it the way you did it? I mean, who was helping you? Who was guiding you? Who was giving you advice? Nobody. So it's obvious that this is what was going to come about. And that's all okay. But you have to accept that. Also, the Orthodox Judaic position is that what you're doing is wrong. Because what you're doing is imitating Jews the way that Jesus of Nazareth told you not to do. Do not do as they do. But you're not doing it exactly as we do it, because you didn't get taught to do it the way we do it. Yeah. So instead, you do it the way Karaites do it and the way Sadducees do it, which is basically sola scriptura. What does the Bible say? It says do this. Okay, so we're going to do that. And that's even worse. Frankly speaking, that's even worse. That is reverting back to your past. Jews, Orthodox Jews, we don't say that Christians descend from pagans, actually. We say that you descend from lost Jews, lost sheep of the house of Israel, who mixed with pagans and got pagan ideas and pagan practices, but were fundamentally Edom, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, Jews who went astray, the prodigal son in the story that Jesus of Nazareth gives, the story of the prodigal son. You went astray, or your ancestors did, and you've come back to connect to the God of your ancestors before they went astray, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Baruch Hashem. That's fantastic. And it's not good that you come back to the ways of those Sadducees and Karaites who Jesus condemned in his lifestyle, in his time. He condemned their lifestyle and said, that's not right. Who Paul also condemned and said, that's not right. It's okay that you say, well, we're doing it without, but we know that we don't have to do it. That's good. That's a good step. That's an improvement on those Sadducees and Karaites who were doing it because they thought they had to do it. Okay.
Right.
Doing it exactly the same way as you're doing it, by the way, because you're not doing it the way the Orthodox Jews do it. You're doing it the way the scribes and the Pharisees do it. You don't do Sukkot the way we do. You don't do Sabbath the way we do. You do these things, but not exactly as we do, which is kind of good. We Orthodox Judaism believes, and this is how do I condense down Judaism to make it really easy to understand the ceremonial law, and what is the purpose of the ceremonial law, and where does it all come from? And it comes from our belief in something called dibukim, which translates as evil spirits. And the evil spirits are mentioned in the New Testament as well. Jesus of Nazareth goes around exorcising people who have demons and evil spirits. Okay. And people say, oh, I thought that was shedim. Yeah, you would think that because you don't know Judaism. You're just reading the sola scripture. But the phrase for this is not shedim. Shedim is not the correct term. The correct term for these evil spirits and these demons are dibukim. And the word dibuk means to stick. It's something which sticks onto you. Dibukim are the sticky spirits. And that's what it means, possession. When something possesses you, it's like the spirit sticks onto you and it doesn't come off of you. You have to pull it off through exorcism to get rid of these spirits, these evil spirits or demons. So this is what the dibukim are. And it's a big deal in Judaism. All the ceremonial law is about dibukim. And I think the sad thing is that there is a disconnect in the way that Sadducees, Karaites, and people on the Messianic lifestyle come to Judaism without any understanding of evil spirits. whereas we understand evil spirits very, very well. And that's why we have all of our ceremonial laws. You don't touch the dead body of a pig or a dog or a frog or a spider or a gnat. You don't touch these things, because if you do, you get contaminated by their death. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
You can touch the dead body of a lamb, of a goat, of a cow, of a chicken, of a fish, a true fish. You can. Those are the you're using the word kosher. You can touch the kosher animals. The real word is not kosher. The real word is tahor. Okay, that's the correct word.
Tahor. Tahor. Do not touch things that are tameh.
Correct. Tameh. That's right. So what most people in vernacular speech say is kosher, non-kosher.
I get it. I agree.
Yeah, that's not the real word, actually. Kosher just means how did you kill it? It's absolutely totally possible to have a kosher pig. As long as you shechita the pig in the right way, then it's been kashered. It's kosher pig, but it's still tuma.
That's
so
right.
it's clean. That's the word if you translate as unclean. It means contaminant is actually the real word. So it's still contaminant creatures versus non-contaminant creatures. So what contaminated by what? Tuma means it's a contaminant creature. Tame, okay, it's tuma, and tahor means it's not a contaminant creature. So what are you getting contaminated by when you touch these so-called unkosher animals? Yeah, what are you getting contaminated? Can I get contaminated if I play with a cat or a dog or a pig that's alive? No, I cannot. I cannot get contaminated. But if it's dead, I can get contaminated by it. Can I get contaminated by a fly landing on my head? No. What if I touch a dead body of a fly? Can I get contaminated? Yes. So what are we contaminated by? Life or death? And the answer is we get contaminated by death, not by life.
Right.
So what is it? I mean, it's dead. It doesn't have anything. If I'm touching here's my mobile phone. I touch my phone. It's dead. What am I taking from it? Nothing. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Right. What does it mean? I'm getting contaminated by touching this microphone. It's dead. It's actually a live mic. But if I'm touching something which is dead, no, what does it mean I'm getting contaminated by something? But by what? And the difference is because these things used to be alive, but now they're dead. So there's something different intrinsically on an essential level between something which used to be alive and became dead. It still has something about it which is there from when it was alive, but now it doesn't have animation. And that is what we call the dibuk, the sticky spirit. Now, some animals, you can touch them, you're not going to get a sticky spirit from it. Those are the tahor animals, the kosher animals. But everything else, you're going to get a sticky spirit from it when you touch it when it's dead. Everything else. And so all of our ceremonial laws are about avoiding being contaminated by these things. Okay? And the most contaminant thing, of course, 7 times more contaminant than any other contaminant creature is, of course, what? A human being. A dead human is 7 times more because God put a mark 7 times on Cain. Okay, so a human is 7 times more contaminant. That means if you touch a dead human, if you touch a dead pig, you can wash yourselves and be pure within 1 day. Within 1 day.
Right.
If you touch a dead human, then you've got to wait 7 days. Yeah. It's 7 times more contaminant.
Yeah.
That's why when a woman is in her menstruation, she loses the egg which was potentially a new human. And she remains in that state of contamination for 7 days. She can purify herself and wash and clean, but she has to wait 7 days before coming back into the fold. And here is the most basic rule, which anybody who wanted to follow the Messianic lifestyle would observe if they were sincere about it, but they don't. So it's like, oh, I want to have the tzitzit, and I want to have the payat, and I want to have this and that, the other. Oh, but can we forget about the fact that women have to purify themselves for 7 days? That's so insulting. That's so cruel. That's so unpleasant. No, actually, that's the fundamental. That's what you would start with and then you would move on to other stuff.
Right.
So you're doing it backwards. You're doing the same sort of thing that Paul says, you don't get circumcised and keep the law. You can keep all the law first and then get circumcised, which is actually the correct way in halakha. If you wanted to convert to Judaism, we would expect you to be keeping all of the laws first, and the last thing that we would do, we would circumcise you. This is the exact opposite of what the Sadducees and the Karaites do, which they circumcise you first, and then they say, go and observe the laws. Well, we wouldn't do that. And Jesus' disciples also said, no, that's the wrong way. So Jesus' disciples agree with the scribes and the Pharisees, the Beit Hillel, and say, no, you would keep the law first, even though you don't have to keep the law. And then the very last thing you would do would get circumcised if you really wanted to, for example, in the case of Timothy, where Timothy was circumcised. Yeah.
Right.
Did you want to jump in and say something?
Well, no, as I'm listening to you and being able to respond, like knowing about Tahor and Tameh, that is because I have decided to practice this lifestyle.
That's why I said it's a good thing.
Otherwise, I couldn't hold an intelligent conversation with you without doing this. So to me, and I'll tell you what, one thing, there's going to be a lot of people listen to this because I promote this, and I'm getting feedback from people that are listening to the show. We are getting more and more people that are listening to you and understanding and helping to balance out. Yet we live this lifestyle,
and that's how it helps you to connect with
it. You wouldn't love it, and we want it, and it has changed my life.
Sure. Very good. And you wouldn't be able to understand anything that I was talking about unless you had
or half of it.
Right. So that's why I started off by saying it's a good thing. It could not have happened in any other way.
Right.
But now it's time to stop and pause and listen. Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
That's all I'm saying. It's like this is the way that Hashem demanded it had to be. Right. But now it's time. You've been brought to Mount Sinai, and now it's time to listen. Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. So this has brought you to Mount Sinai, and now it's time to listen to the voice of God. And I'm not saying that I'm God. No. The voice of God, though, is the Torah. And the Torah is both the oral and the written Torah, but the oral Torah as well. And the oral Torah is telling you this far and no further. Okay. Let's stop now. Do not go beyond the boundaries. You will be struck down. Wow. And I'm not saying this lightly. Yeah. The Dibukim are real. You do get contaminated by these things. And the worst possible thing you can do is make a dibuk. You see, why are Jews so concerned about being tahor all the time? Is because our lifestyle, the one which Hashem dictated for us, the ceremonial lifestyle at Mount Sinai, makes us more attractive to sticky spirits than any other people on the planet. I'll repeat, the Torah ceremonial lifestyle makes you more attractive to sticky spirits than any other people on the planet. It means that some Jew who is half-hearted about their Judaism and is doing Judaism little and then not really living the lifestyle in the IDF, for example, is more likely to be possessed by a demon than any other human on the planet.
I see.
So if you start and pick up this and do a little bit, you're more likely to be possessed by a sticky spirit, demon, dibuk, than any other human. That's why it's like, let's slow down and realize exactly what we're doing here. When you light the candles on the Sabbath, Friday night, that's okay. Lighting the candles is okay because it's getting dark. People light candles at nighttime, and they've been doing it all around the world for forever. Okay, so you're not going to get demons just by lighting candles on a Friday night. Right. However, if you start doing all the prayers that the Jews do on the Friday night, and then you do all the prayers on the Friday morning, you're not just lighting candles to stop the darkness. You're imitating Jews.
Yeah.
And by imitating Jews, you're sending a big signal out in the spiritual realm to all of the sticky spirits and saying those are the people that we have to go and attach ourselves to because they are close to God. And we want to be close to God too, but we are mindless spirits, and all we have is a feeling that we want to be close to those people, so we're going to go after them. And they're going to go after you too.
Right.
Which is why you have to do an exorcism. And what Jesus of Nazareth did with his disciples at the Last Supper, when he said, right, the hour came after he had declined, when they had finished the meal, he took the bread and he did the wine and bread blessing. And he gave it to him saying, this is my body, this is my blood. So what he's doing here is he's doing Havdalah at the end of the ceremony. It's very important to remember what he said. It says, when the supper had ended, when the time had come. And this is at the end of the feast day. Remember, in the morning on that day, they were in the temple, and the voice of God spoke and said, I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. And everybody was like, what's that? Has the thunder struck? And then he went home in the evening, had his final meal at the end of the Yom Tov with his disciples, and then when the hour came, he did the blessing over the wine. It cannot be confused with Kiddush. This is not Kiddush.
Exactly.
This is the exact opposite of Kiddush. This is the blessing over the wine, which comes at the end of the ceremony, at the end of the Yom Tov. It's the Havdalah. Exactly. And Havdalah is an exorcism.
Right. Okay.
Havdalah.
Right. We talked about that. Right.
It's literally an exorcism ceremony. It's a ceremony of exorcism. And the reason why Jesus of Nazareth gives his disciples this exorcism ceremony, the ceremony of exorcism to do, and this is the real exorcism. This is not this is a real Jewish exorcism. This is not the exorcism you see in some kind of Christian movie about the Catholic priest going in with the holy water. That's not the exorcist. That is some kind of fantasy created by a church which is far from its origins, very, very far from its origins. The true Judaic exorcism is the Havdalah. That's the true Judaic exorcism. So Jesus is giving his disciples a safety net. He's like, I know you're going to do something wrong. So do this in memory of me. All right?
Very good.
Just do this regularly.
That's right.
And you will keep yourself free from the demons. All right? Because this is my essence. This is my body. This is my core of my being. Do it. If you love me, you'll do as I say. Keep the Havdalah. And so this is the way, this is much, much, much more important for a Messianic Noahide to follow than any other ceremonial law. And if you do start following the Messianic lifestyle, then just do it gently, knowing that you don't have to, like the way we've talked about it. Right. But do not neglect ever your Havdalah. Do not ever neglect your Havdalah. Neglect your Kabbalat Shabbat. Neglect lighting the candles. Neglect any other thing. But never, never, ever neglect your Havdalah.
That's good. Real good. I like it.
Okay.
I remember my journey with this started way back. I think it was in '92 that I went. No, it wasn't. It was later than that. Anyway, I had gone to Israel on a tour, but on the tour was a group from a Messianic congregation in Fort Worth. And I met the cantor of that congregation. And that's where I started learning any of this at all. And I mean, at night when we were in our hotel, we would go to each other's room and talk about stuff. And he started asking me about my background, which I was a hellfire and damnation preacher. I used to preach in tent revivals and things like that. And so I knew Christianity inside and out, everything. But he started questioning me on certain, doctrines and things like that. And then when I gave him my answer, he would take me to Torah and explain to me those things. And it blew my mind. It's like, I should know these things. I shouldn't just talk out of the New Testament. I should know these things, which sparked in me when I went back to America was to start studying these things out. Of course, I was still going to my church. And then after I started studying out like the kippah, the tzitzit, the prayer shawl, things like that, I actually started wearing them to church.
Okay.
And the first Sunday I wore them to church, the pastor came out afterwards as I was leaving and said, Mark, okay, I understand. I went with you on the tour. I was with you. I understand everything you learned over there and all of this kind of stuff. But are you sure? And she said, actually, I know you, Mark. I know you wouldn't do these things unless you studied it out. And so I remember she actually kept me accountable to the Christian perspective of it. And I learned more as I went on, but I never do anything without searching things out. You notice I don't wear a kippah now. I'm not wearing a prayer shawl, all of that kind of stuff now. I'm learning. I am open to it, but I also don't do anything without.
It's understandable. It's the first go-to thing. You're saying, I want to connect to this, and I don't.
10 minutes, by the way.
That's fine. That's fine. You say, I want to connect to this, and I don't know what else that I'm doing because we are unfortunately visual people. If we're not, if we are sighted people, if we're not blind, if we're sighted, we look, see, copy, do. In a sense, it would be greater. It would be much better for you if you were turning towards the Messianic lifestyle and you were blind, because you wouldn't be distracted by the exact things that Jesus didn't want you to get distracted by. You think about how might a blind person turn towards the Messianic lifestyle? What might be the things that they would discover first?
That's good. That's good. The Torah.
Yeah, they wouldn't be looking at tefillin or tzitzit or peyot or beards or kippah. They wouldn't be thinking about any of these visual things. They would be thinking, and this is what God calls his blind servant in Isaiah, who is blind, my Meshulam, the one who is in covenant with me. This referring to the Noahide. So the Noahide has to be blind to these things, actually. You have to be blind to these things. So you'd be much better off if you were blind. Because then you'd say, okay, so what is it makes a Jew different from me then? I'm blind. I don't see the trinkets, the decorations. And think about that for a second. What makes a Jew's lifestyle different from a Christian's lifestyle, were it not for the visual distractions? Wasn't it for if I take off my jacket, if I take off my kippah, what is it that's different about me, really? If I shave my beard?
Nothing. Right. Nothing different.
But there is actually. There's a lot.
Well, there's a lot different, but I mean, you're still the same Yossi.
Okay, I'm the same person.
Without
what is it that distinguishes? Things. So let's do that. I mean, I'm not allowed to move without a kippah, but I can take off my kippah as long as I don't walk around. There's my kippah off. I'll take off my jacket now. There's my jacket off. Okay, there I am, bald. Okay, maybe I'll take off my glasses. It helps because some, Jews and glasses always go together. All right then. So now what am I? Am I not Jewish? I'm still Jewish. So what's the difference between us now? I've still got tzitzit on, unfortunately. I have to take the tzitzit off. Okay, so that's gone. So now what's the difference? What makes me Jewish? Well, I know the oral Torah. I know about the rules of Taharat, and I observe the rules of Taharat. I observe Sabbath in a particular way. And now you start to see these things are the things which Jesus wants his disciples to go for first.
I love it.
First and foremost. Now, you've been through it because you're a visual person. So you start with the kippah, and you start with the tzitzit. And maybe you could have gone with a jacket and a hat and stuff like that. Maybe you could have done the whole thing. It's cold, so I'm putting on my jacket again. Okay. So you could have done the whole thing. All right. But that's because you're a visual person. Right. But you would be much more blessed. I can't get my arm through my jacket. I can't do that. You'd be much more blessed if you didn't see what it was then you
Go ahead and lay
focus
down
on.
your mic for a second. You can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. We're fine. Good. I understand exactly what you're looking at.
So we're talking about taharat. That's what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
That's the Jewish lifestyle. And it's much more important than these trinkets. These trinkets are not important. It's about how do we observe Sabbath. So that's where I want to encourage all Messianic people to go. Go there. And as Jesus said, don't widen the phylacteries. Don't lengthen your tzitzit. Don't have your payot, your beard. Don't do any of that. Leave it all. Don't even get circumcised. That's another visual thing on the outside. You go to the baths, in Roman baths, and you've got your circumcision there. Everybody knows you're Jew. Don't even do that. But how about starting with taharat? How about having a tahor and holy? That's what it means, to keep holy the Sabbath day. The only one of the 10 commandments which mentions the Noahides. Check it out. It's the only one which mentions the Noahide. It says the stranger which is within your gates. But actually it's a translation of ger, which means Noahide.
Right.
The only commandment of the 10 which mentions the Noahides is Sabbath. Keep a holy, kosher Sabbath. Once a week. Try out the kosher lifestyle once a week. Because it's really going to have a good effect. And do the Havdalah afterwards. Because what you're doing by being kosher and doing the Havdalah is you're exorcising yourself from the spirits of this world, which are going to hold you back. They're going to hold you back. And you'll find your attitude, and you have found that your attitude changes. That things that you were fanatic about, suddenly you're not so fanatic about things. Things that you were angry about, suddenly you don't feel the anger. Maybe your lust has decreased. Maybe your appetite is less. Because what's happening is the animal spirits, which give you too much lust, too much greed, too much anger, all these things. These are animal spirits. These are dibukim. The animal spirits are leaving you, and your personality is coming through, and you're no longer being held back by all of these other, what we call the dibukim. You're no longer being held back by the dibukim, which humans are infested with. If you think about the three communities, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, it's quite interesting. Christians are the ones who got the most demons, but they're not the most concerned about it. Muslims are the most concerned about demons because they see the demons and they know what's going on. What is the difference between a Christian and a Muslim? Muslims look more like Jews. They do more of the external things. They also wear their head caps. They also have their beards. They also dress in a particular way. They also do their taharat, but they don't do it correctly. They call it wudu. They do it wrongly. And so what they're doing is Judaism, but they're doing it wrong. They're doing a visual external Judaism and they're doing it wrong. And that is why they are so concerned about demons, because demons are very, very real in the Islamic world. There's not a Muslim who's going to say that that's not true. Every Muslim I've spoken to is going to say that's true. Demons are very, very real in the Islamic world. Why is that?
Sure.
Because they're trying too hard to be like Jews, actually. Even if they know we're not, we follow the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If they follow the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, but that sunnah is nothing but a Torah lifestyle, actually. And also some Arab lifestyle as well thrown in there. And, a harem of women is not Jewish lifestyle, but it is something that Solomon had. And it's part of the sheikh sort of lifestyle. But a lot of the things they're doing is like an imitation of the Jewish lifestyle. And that's why demons are very, very real for them. They don't want demons, but they can't escape demons. Whereas Christians couldn't care less about demons. They want to escape demons, and they don't even know when they've got a demon. Yeah. So it's a very different situation.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be possessed by a demon when you're a Christian living a non-Jewish lifestyle, a Christian lifestyle. But you're more likely to be concerned about the demons when you're a Muslim who is trying to avoid all of this, and you can't understand why there's such a big problem in your society.
Yeah.
And the answer is what we've been talking about today. That's the answer to all of that.
It's amazing. By the way, we get 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. And through the years in my Christian lifestyle, though, there are so many sects of people that get infatuated with the demons and casting them out and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
again and again.
when they
works.
do it, it's really doesn't even follow scripture.
No,
they just namby-pamby do it.
They're clutching at straws. They're clutching at straws. They're trying to find a way, and they can't escape them. All you really need to do is the Havdalah, the way Jesus told you to do it.
Yeah.
Do the Havdalah constantly, never miss it. There is your ceremonial law. Everything else is moral law.
Right.
And if you want to add extra things on, then fine, but go for the things which are invisible first. And leave the visible things to the very end of the journey if you want to continue that journey all the way to the end.
With you.
Okay.
It's
we didn't speak about Education Day. We've got to talk about
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I've learned so much. Got 2.5 pages of notes here, and I love it. It's very good. All right.
Hopefully next week we'll talk about Education Day.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is March 26th, right? So we should talk about that because it's coming up.
I like it. I like it a lot. Let's do it. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Have a great week, Yossi, and you and your family. And
you too.
We'll get together next week. God bless.
Okay, everybody. Shalom, everybody. Have a good week. Shavua Tov.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv where you will find this show and all other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell somebody about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.